Hello, this is Edith Neumeyer, and I'm the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. Just a little bit about my book. It's a book on gender equality. You can find it on Amazon called The Mystery of Adam. I also have a website called The Mystery of Adam. You can find out a little more about it there. I also, if you go to playlist, there's one just on my book, and you can listen to some of the videos to give you some information what my book is about. Basically, it's about biblical gender equality. I did a really intense research study into the original word of this word man. God created man in his image. And it's very obvious that this word man means humankind. It's not male being. We know that in the English language, man can mean either human being or humankind or also male being. Now, it kind of is confusing, but the original text is ha-adam, the Hebrew word ha-adam, and it is human being, not a man, not a male being. And the male being and the female being did not come into existence until the second creation account, during which God split or divided the human being. That's when we first hear about man, the word man, and the word woman, not before. So my gender equality is based on that, should I say, discovery. But today I'm not going to talk about that. You can find out on your own about this. Today I am going to continue to talk about end times prophecy and the uniqueness of what people call the rapture. Now, you know, or maybe you don't, the rapture, that word rapture, is not in the Bible. And a lot of people are spreading false lies right now and say, oh, that was made up by dispensationalism or futurism. But that is not really true either. Okay, the event is not made up. The event is clearly 1 Corinthians 4 and 5. That is absolutely the event. It is when Jesus returns, or Matthew 25, when Jesus returns for the bride. Matthew 25 is a really good parable that Jesus used to show how it's going to be like when Jesus returns. We know that in John, I believe it's either 14 or 15, Jesus says, I am going to my Father and I'm preparing a place for you. And when I return, then I will get you and you will be there too. We have to understand that Jesus is now betrothed to his bride. Betrothed means that they made a contract saying, yes, we want to get married. And so they, in a sense, in front of the law, are already married, but they're not living together. They have not had intercourse yet at that time. But they made that commitment to be man and woman. And so then the bridegroom goes and prepares a place for the bride. And that can take 1 to 2 years. The bridegroom returns and gets his bride. Now, the interesting thing is that the bridegroom does not know the time or the hour. Remember that saying, you don't know the time or the hour? Where's that coming from? It's coming exactly from that saying. The bridegroom does not know the time or the hour when to return. It's the father's business to tell the bridegroom when it is time to go and get your bride. That's just the way it is. So then when the father says, yep, your house is ready, go get your bride, that's when he goes and gets his bride in the middle of the night with his entourage. Okay? I would think it's probably the angels. But the angels are not going now and getting the bride. No, the bridegroom personally comes for his bride. The bridegroom personally comes for his bride. He picks her up. He takes her in the rooms he prepared. Okay? For a time being. For what? Have intercourse, of course. That's when the bride has to prove that she was a virgin. Then when they come out of this huppah or bridal chamber, that is when the wedding will happen. The banquet, or I don't know what people call it. It's a banquet. Okay? That's when the banquet happens. So this is what we are talking about when we're talking about rapture. Now, if you have a problem with that word rapture, then leave it out. Call it something else. I just call it rapture because people have an understanding when the bridegroom returns for the bride, that is the rapture. Now, rapture means is a snatching out of the bride. Okay, a snatching out of the bride. The bridegroom, yes, comes in the clouds. Clouds means we don't see him, is somewhere up there. Now, people describe that, of course, during Jesus's time, that, he disappeared in the clouds when he rose. Simply saying he disappeared. He didn't stay somewhere up there behind the clouds, hovering around. Or there was not I don't know. I don't want to go to the spaceship thing. But he disappeared. Where did he go when he disappeared? Okay, where did he go? He went into what people call heaven. Now, is heaven something made up too? Are we going to now expect people to run around and say, oh, heaven is something made up? No. Okay, of course we have that word in the Bible. Heaven is a place that we don't know where it is. It's the supernatural. It's in the supernatural, people. Okay? It's not somewhere up there in one of the planets of where. Okay? I like to use the word dimension because we today use the word dimension because we understand things a little bit better. We're more scientifically advanced than during Paul's time. During Paul's time, they didn't have dimension, or John's time. They would have, if they would have had dimension, they probably would have used that. But they used heaven because it's a place in the supernatural. It's in a different place. It's not in our three-dimensional world, which our universe is three-dimensional. The planets are three. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about a place that is beyond our three-dimensional or four-dimensional world that we are having. That's what it is. And I just use the word dimension. People say, it's not in the Bible and we're not going to use it. Sometimes I'm just wondering about people. Anyways, so this is what I'm talking about. It's an event when the bridegroom is returning for his bride to take her out of this world into the place that he prepared. Now, this is a mystery that's going on. And I think it's been a mystery for a long time. Okay, well, in the Old Testament, it's a mystery. It was even a mystery during Jesus' time. He didn't say, there's going to be this event. Well, he told them, I'm going to go and prepare a place for you. And when I'm done, I'm going to return. So that's what they knew. They knew that much, but they didn't know exactly when it happens, how it fit in this whole day of the Lord thing. And I think Peter didn't have a good understanding of what it is. Paul did. I think he had some understanding of when he wrote 1 Thessalonians 4, what that is. So anyways, that's what I'm talking about, is the taking out of the bride. Now, something very mysterious happens when the bride is taken out. We know that when we read 1 Thessalonians 4, we read that we are changed. Now, of course, people that are dead, okay, they will be resurrected first. But here is the mystery. See, when we are here still alive, we will be changed in a twinkling of an eye. Now, people in the Old Testament, for instance, Isaiah 26:19-21, he already talked about that taken out of the bride. He didn't quite understand it. He just said there's a resurrection and people should go into their chambers, and then there's going to be the wrath of God. That's the way he described it. But it was still a mystery for him how all this would happen. He just got a little glimpse of it, of this event. So then Paul got a bigger kind of understanding. See, everybody has just a little more understanding of what's happening. They don't know, everybody doesn't know everything. Okay, Peter didn't know everything. I'm not sure Peter ever described this mysterious event. Okay, he just knew that people will be resurrected. And I think so did John. John never really understood things with the resurrection and the taken out of the bride very much. Because John always sees the bride in heaven. Of course, he sees the churches. He has the letters to the churches. But then after that, the church seems to be gone. The thing is that he saw the church in heaven every time. Okay? And he sees them in chapter 7. He sees the bride in heaven. He sees her in chapter 14 in heaven. Of course, he sees her in 20 when they're sitting on the thrones. So he sees them at various times, but he never says she was raptured or she was taken out. He never describes that, taken out. Never. Okay? He didn't maybe see it, understand it. I don't know. Maybe that was one of the things that was not given to him, and maybe purposely, because God was hiding maybe this event for most of the history. Why? Because he didn't want Satan to find out what's really going on. Okay, now Satan knows. He knows that it's time for this event to happen, this what people call the rapture. And there is no doubt. People say, oh, there is no secret rapture. Well, no, a secret rapture is not in the Bible either, okay? That word secret is not in the Bible. But when you know that this event happens like a thief in the night, well, you know it is probably secret. Because a thief in the night is secret. He's not going to blabber out, hey, I'm coming and blah, blah, blah. You know what? Be aware. He's not going to do that. So, yes, that event is always kind of secret because of just what it is. People don't know it. People are not supposed to know it. Not even the foolish virgins knew about it at first. Okay? Nobody knows except the Father, right? Because the Father sends the Son back. The Son doesn't even know. Why? Because the Father gives him the okay when it's okay to come back and get the bride. That's why nobody knows the day or the hour. That's why. Okay? So we need to understand these little phrases like a thief in the night. Last trumpet is another one for this event. When you study the Feast of Trumpets, all these expressions are part of the Feast of Trumpets, like a thief in the night, nobody knows the days or hour, the last trump. All these are expressions or representations of that feast. And when you study, and now of course, the Jews, they already forgot about these things, right? And they filled it with their own little traditions. So they're not preparing every year. Why would they? I mean, they're not even prepared. They haven't prepared for the Passover or first fruit or any of the other ones either. They don't even understand that these feasts are fulfillments of Messiah, and that's why they missed him completely. We had now 3 feast days of the Lord fulfilled, and they still don't know it. No, 4. Yeah, 4 feast days. And so we're coming up on the 4th one, the Feast of Trumpets, that need to be fulfilled. And they don't even know that the first 4 were fulfilled, which is pretty sad. So going to the Jewish writings is kind of hard. I mean, you have to really dig deep to find out about the symbolism of the Feast of Trumpets. See, the symbolism of the Feast of Trumpets is also what? Wedding. Okay? Wedding. Wedding of the king. And so the event happens. There's just no doubt at all that this event where the bridegroom returns for the bride, they go into the huppah or in the wedding chamber, and then after a while, I don't know how many days they're in the wedding chamber, then they come out again. See, then the whole world will see them as a couple, not before, not when they went into the chambers. Nobody most likely knows about it, okay, except the family. That all of a sudden, oh, the bride is gone. So when the bride is gone, then the family knows, oh, wait a minute, we now have to prepare because pretty soon they're coming out and all the wedding plans have to be ready. You know, the banquet had to be ready. The guests had to be invited and so on. So now the guests are coming. Are the guests invited to the wedding? I mean, is the couple, the marriage couple, invited to the wedding? No, they are part of it. That's why they have it. The guests are invited. Okay, the family invites the guest while they are in the chamber, the wedding chamber, and then they come out for everybody to see. Now, how is that? That is also in, for instance, Zechariah 14. We can see that. Zechariah 14, 5 or 8. Read the whole kind of all the way to verse 8, and you will see it. That then the bridegroom is coming in the clouds. Jesus is coming in the clouds with his bride. Now, we see that also in Revelation. Okay? You can go, I think it's Revelation 20. So Revelation 20, it could be there, what we say, or it could be 19. Maybe I should be going to 19. When you read about the bride, I mean, Jesus coming in the clouds, okay? And the angels will gather the elect. Now, that is not the bride, because the bride is with the bridegroom. We just don't see him in that specific scene of John in Revelation, I think 19. Look at 19, I think that's what it is. We just don't see it there. Okay, that's very important. Just because you don't see the saints in the background doesn't mean they're not there. Now, when Jesus returns after the wrath, when he comes out of the bridal chamber, and everybody will see him in the clouds, everybody, okay? The angels will gather the ones that are still alive, which will not be very many, okay? The believers that are still alive will be gathered by the angels, because those are now the guests, people, okay, to the wedding. They will be the guests to the wedding. They will not be the bride, okay? That's very important to know. They will not be the bride. They will be the guests. I don't see it, of course, then. Here is one in 17, verse 17. So that's Revelation 19, 17. It says, and I saw an angel standing in the sun who cried in a loud voice to all the flying birds But that's not come and gather together for the great supper, because that will happen before. That's Armageddon, where they gather together everybody, the angels gather together everybody, and they go down and put the sickle on everybody, okay, and where the beast is thrown into the lake of burning fire. So that's not the one I want. But somewhere it says that Jesus returns and the angels will gather the elect. But these elect are not the saints, because the saints are with Jesus in the wedding chamber, or were with Jesus in the wedding chamber, and are returning with Jesus, okay, as he returns after the wrath of God and presents himself to the whole world. But that is different, and many people confuse that. When we read Matthew 24, we see in Matthew 24:29 that after the distress of those days, or after the tribulation of these days, the sun will go dark and the moon will lose its shine. And now we can look that up. Matthew 24, and we're going to go to 29. That's what it says. Because in that little section there, Matthew 20, when it says 29, it's amazing. In that little section, so much happened. It says, immediately after the distress of those days of tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. That is taken out of, I believe, Joel 2. Let me check it out. It's not in there. Daniel, Isaiah, could be Isaiah 2, 13. But it's in the Old Testament, and that is the sign for the day of the Lord. So when that starts, that's when the day of the Lord starts, okay? Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man. So here in that little quote, we have the wrath of God happening first. Then will appear, or maybe here it is, then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn. Okay? All the peoples of the earth. Now, do you think the saints will mourn? No. That's not the way it goes. Okay? Remember, that's why we understand that this here is not what people call the rapture. This is not when Jesus returns for his bride. That happened before the sun went dark. Okay? Before the sun went dark. Before the wrath of God started. That is when the rapture happened. And you know what? Matthew didn't say it. Jesus didn't say anything about that event. Nothing. Why? Because it's a mystery. Because it was a mystery. Okay? It's not a mystery anymore. That's why people are confused. Oh, why didn't Jesus mention it? Jesus did not mention the rapture. Okay? Jesus did not mention the rapture. He did not mention the bridegroom's return. He will mention it when? In Matthew 25. Okay? In Matthew 25, he goes back and he goes, also says that, when was it? In verse 39, that's when he goes into that one. It says, 2 men will be in the field, and one will be taken, and 2 women will be grinding with the handmill, and one will be taken and one left behind. That is when he is talking about the rapture. But he is talking about that again after this whole thing. He is here talking about it just in general. And he doesn't say anything about the rapture. But then when he is finished, and he's almost at the end, because he says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. And then he goes into explaining this will be like the time of Noah. And he is also then explaining, he goes back. See, this is what Matthew does. Matthew he doesn't tell us chronologically. He kind of jumps back and forth. He tells you about the destruction of the temple. Then he tells us after the tribulation of his days, then the sun will be darkened. That means the day of the Lord will start and the wrath will start. And then he is saying, oh, and Jesus is returning in the clouds for everybody to see. Okay? And the angels will go out and gather the elect from the four winds of the earth. Okay? And then later on he says, this is going to be like the day of Noah, because, they didn't know it either. Now, the day of Noah, didn't that happen before the wrath of God happened? Yeah, sure. See, that's why you need to understand this happened before. So he's kind of taking things apart. They're different sections, but they're not chronological. And then he's talking about somebody being taken and somebody left behind. Well, that talks about really the rapture. That talks about then when he goes into chapter 25 about this parable of the 10 virgins. And I hope you kind of understand that Matthew is not chronological at all. You have to understand in your brain the timeline. The timeline is tribulation all the way to the end. That's the timeline. It's not, tribulation for 7 years or tribulation for 3.5. No, we're going through tribulation right now. People, okay? Satan is attacking us left and right. Paul is saying, put on the full armor of God. Why? Because we're under attack. Because tribulation all the way to the end. 29 in Matthew, all the way to the end. Then the day of the Lord starts. And that is one of the questions that they asked Jesus during that time in the beginning of the chapter 24. Okay, they said, first tell us what the sign is for the destruction of the temple, and then tell us what is the sign of your coming. Because they thought it was happening together, but it didn't. There was 2,000 years in between. So he told them first the temple destruction. Then he told them about the day of his coming, the second coming. He's not talking to them about the tribulation, because that's not what they wanted to know. They didn't know about that. He talks about the second coming. Okay? So he says, when the sun goes dark, you should know that. That's what the prophet said in the old. That's when the day of the Lord starts. Okay? Then he's saying, and then you see him in the clouds. Okay? After that, he did not even say anything about the rapture at that time. Then later on, he goes and gives you a little idea about the rapture in that he says, one will continue and one will be taken. This is not the same event as up here when he will send his angels and gather the elect. That is not the same event. And people constantly make that mistake. Read it. It's not the same. Okay? The angels don't go out and gather the elect, the saints. The elect maybe. The elect are the ones that still believe in Jesus during the wrath of God. Because we see the wrath of God happening, then the elect will be gathered by the angels. You see that? There's a difference. But these people, one will be left, one will be taken. They're continuing to work. These people will continue to work during the wrath of God. That's why they can say one is taken, one is left behind. You know what? You need to understand that the rapture or the taking of the bride is a mystery. Remember that mystery is also that people are changed. Their DNA is being changed. That's not going to happen when the angels come and collect the people. They're just collecting them. They're not changed in a twinkling of an eye. You understand that. Because I know I have so many people that I constantly talk to that don't seem to understand that and don't want to understand that. It is obviously and clear. If you look at these verses, especially Matthew 24, that there's two different events. One event when the elect are being taken out, you can see one is taken, one is left behind. Okay, that's because they are snatched out. They're not collected. There's not an angel walking around picking these people up. Picking the people up. No, they're being snatched away and the others are left behind. Okay, that's what's happening. But when Jesus returns in the clouds after the wrath, then the angels will go out and gather the elect, because the elect will be then the people that are the guests at the wedding. That is the whole thing. Why people get so confused. Understand that the rapture, and I'm going to use the word, I guess, because it explains so nicely. Well, it's a nice word for this event that is happening. This is snatching out of the believers, of the saints. Not, we're not being gathered by some angels, no, the bridegroom is coming personally and picking us up. Come on, people. The bridegroom has been waiting for the bride for 2,000 years. You don't think he wants to personally come and pick her up? Oh my goodness. I don't understand why people are so blind. Anyways, I'm coming to an end today. Read these verses again. Matthew 24, which are really good, starting with verse 29, and all the other ones that I have mentioned. But yeah, I think it was Isaiah 26, 19 through 21. So read these verses again and really think about it and let the Holy Spirit guide you. I know I can't tell you, because only the Holy Spirit can really open your eyes and show you what's really going on.